Welcome to day 5 of 30 days of IBS foods. Today is all about yogurt. This is a food I find people get a little bit confused about because we know that lactose can be a common gut trigger, and yet it is quite low in some yogurts. So let's explain a bit about the benefits of why you should be eating yogurt, how it affects your digestion, and then how you can tolerate more of it. Yogurt is a really good source of protein and also calcium. So calcium is rich in most dairy foods, and it's not easily replicated in dairy-free yogurt such as soy or coconut yogurt. You have loads of different types of yogurts. Obviously, there are live yogurts, natural yogurt, Greek yogurt, skyr. There's so many different brands and also styles of fermenting it. Where the yogurt says live or active or bio, this normally means it's got active live microbes. These are normally beneficial to add some diversity to our gut microbes and helpful for most people who want to increase their gut diversity. Now, some studies show that IBS symptoms decrease when you eat yogurt. Sometimes people find that they react massively to any lactose-containing foods. And this basically could be down to the microbes that you have in your gut. Some people will find it much easier to break down the lactose and to absorb the nutrients from lactose-containing foods. Other people will find that lactose draws the water in and creates a lot of gas. So it's not for everyone, but there are other benefits to eating high-protein yogurts, particularly the calcium, is really important for your bone health, for strong teeth, but also for heart health. We forget that calcium is really important for all muscles, including the heart. So every time you clench your muscles, you're using up calcium, and every time you relax them, you're using magnesium. So we do need a lot of calcium, and that's why it's normally recommended you eat 2 to 3 portions of dairy throughout the day. There's also been shown that there's some reduction in visceral fat associated with people who eat yogurt. Now, this isn't a causal study, but just associations that people who eat more yogurt tend to have less abdominal fat around their belly. This might be for a whole range of reasons, that yogurt's quite healthy and maybe those people also eat other healthy foods. So we don't always want to read too much into these studies, but we do know that yogurt is considered healthy. How could it affect your digestion? Around 70% of the world have some sort of lactose intolerance. It's more common in Asia, some parts of Africa, the Caribbean. So if your heritage is from there, you may find that you struggle more with lactose-containing foods than some people from Northern Africa and Central Europe who developed having high levels of lactose in their diets. When we have too much lactose and it overwhelms our capacity to break it down, you can feel nauseous, you may get stomach cramps, a lot of gas, and normally that happens fairly quickly after the meal. That's in your small intestine. And the reason you might struggle with it is because you don't have enough of the lactase enzyme to break down the lactose. That's the sugar in milk. The fermentation is really reducing some of that lactose as well and making it easier for us to digest. So not only are you getting added good microbes for your gut, you're also getting less exposure to the levels of lactose in cow's milk. Normally, but the more strained and the thicker the yogurt is, the higher the protein content will be. Greek yogurt or skyr, that's S-K-Y-R, that's like an Icelandic style yogurt, is a really good high-protein, low-fat yogurt. So it's really great for adding some vegetarian protein to your diet, if you can tolerate it. It's a really great breakfast to add some berries to, maybe some granola, some nuts and seeds, and just to have a nice summery cool breakfast. Greek yogurt may provide you with around 10 grams of protein per 100 grams compared to something like a normal natural yogurt, which might be 3 or 4 grams per 100 grams. If we're thinking about the low FODMAP amount and how much yogurt you can have because you're worried about lactose, try the thicker Greek yogurt because not only has it got more protein, but you can have more of it at a moderate portion for lactose. So for example, 90 grams roughly of Greek yogurt is considered moderate, whereas only 60 grams of a natural yogurt. So you can have less of that before you're reaching the same lactose tolerance. So this is where you get the thicker yogurt, you're getting more protein and less lactose. So that's what I suggest if you're interested in trying yogurt. Now, the other reason people avoid yogurt is not only the lactose, but the fact that it is fermented, that it may contain live bacteria. The two concerns for that is people who have SIBO who do not want to add additional bacteria. However, the amount of live bacteria in fermented foods is so much less than probiotics, so I would not worry about that. You're not going to cause SIBO, you're not going to trigger a relapse, you're not going to make your SIBO worse by eating some yogurt a couple of times a week. You're getting the benefit of added protein and calcium and the live bacteria as well. So there's a good side to the bacteria, as well as, I know, the worry for people who have SIBO. The other concern is around histamine and the fact that it is fermented, it's aged, and this is more of a trigger, I think, for people who are histamine sensitive. You may find that any fermented foods, as well as aged cheeses, preserved meats, trigger more of a histamine reaction in people who are sensitive when they are at that histamine tolerance. So for people who are histamine sensitive, what you might think about is, on a day where you're feeling pretty good, not a day where your symptoms are really acting up, that might be a time for you to test a small amount of lactose containing yogurt. Now, for those people in the UK as well, there is a really great high protein yogurt pot called Arla, and they added lactase to the product. So it's actually lactose free, and it's not necessarily marketed as lactose free, but actually there's no lactose in it. It does contain some sugar and some flavourings, but most people are going to be okay with that. So if you're interested in trying yogurt, that is another option for you. This isn't an ad, by the way. I just found that through my research. So I really encourage you to try a little bit of yogurt. Even people who are sensitive to lactose and considered lactose intolerant can manage some lactose in their diet. When you have an intolerance to lactose, you do not need to be 100% dairy-free. It's all about your capacity to break it down. The amount of lactose in yogurt may be a lot lower than you're expecting, so maybe it's time to give it another try. Join me tomorrow for another food in our 30 days of IBS foods. See you then.